Hi, thank you for joining us today at A Place of Faith. Today, we are going to explore the spiritual principle of compassion. Our own Becky R. is going to be doing our lesson, our presentation, and Patricia will be doing meditation. I'll be jumping in and out. Please join me in prayer. Higher power, Great Spirit, thank you for being with us in every single way. Thank you for helping us to be stronger, to be wiser, and to keep going no matter what comes up against us. God, we know we can turn to our faith, to our spirituality, and be more than we have ever been before. And so it is.
Okay, compassion. This was fun. This is actually being taped on a day that's kind of difficult for me. I'll start with that. So if I come to tears a little bit during it, this year, just a few months ago, my father passed away. And I should transition to the other side because he's here. He listens to me, which is really kind of amazing because I know that he hears me. But today's his birthday. So happy birthday, Dad. He would have been 89 years old. So thank you for spending this time with me and with him and with everybody here. So what they define, the Webster's Dictionary defines compassion as a sympathetic consciousness of others' distress together with a desire to alleviate it. Okay? Understanding that hatred and revenge never cease through the returned hatred and revenge intent. Facing hatred with compassion, loving one's enemy, overly moving towards equanimity toward all. If I can get there we go. Oop. But exactly what does that mean about compassion? Because a lot of times people confuse compassion with empathy, okay? So compassion is often confused with empathy and sympathy. Most likely because each of the way they're constructed is to be associated with helping. We're going to help the person, okay? But unlike compassion, empathy does not incorporate the readiness in order to act to relieve the suffering. And sympathy is the same way. Sympathy is a feeling of care and concern for someone, which is often associated with the wish to see them happier, but there's no action behind these words. These are feelings inside of us, right? Sympathy is an experience of the feeling of sorrow for someone else's misfortune. With compassion, there is a recognition of the other person's emotional state and a desire to act in order to help it. This is the part that we have to, I talk about this a lot with it. When you hear me talking, I may talk about it too much, I'm not sure. But knowing these principles and acting on these principles are two different things, right? So we can know about compassion, but acting on it is in this order. There's a cognitive component. It's an awareness of suffering. I understand that they're suffering. There's the affective component. A sympathetic concern related to being emotionally moved by suffering. Oh, that brings me to tears because they're hurting. There's the intentional component, is a wish to see them the ease of suffering. That's like, okay, they're suffering. I really wish they weren't. And then there's the motivational component, and that's a responsiveness or a readiness to step in and help, right? So it's all of those combined. It's not just, I see it and there it is, and, it's the acting upon it. So does everybody deserve compassion? Who decides who's worth giving compassion to? And this one is really struck home a lot lately too, because there's been some things coming up in my life that people are very surprised when they say, this person hurt you and we're coming to you, and how can you be so compassionate towards them? And I'm like, because that's who I am, love, and I am compassion, and I have went through this, and I know that on the other side they will find this too. They will also be healed. And what I'm hoping for you and your family is that you become healed. And to me, that's compassion, because I walked into it knowing that it was an act of love and compassion that was going to heal a family. So what would our higher power say about it? Who deserves compassion, who doesn't? You know, somebody hurts you or does something bad to you. I kind of think my higher power would say, hello, I'm the boss around here, you know. I'm the one that decides. And if I decide one person deserves it, then we all deserve it. That's kind of the story that I get when I talk about this. So I found some stories online. They're really brief. One of them is called The Widower. It says, after a long shift at a fire department, Matt Switzel fell asleep while driving home and crashed into another vehicle. He took the life of a pregnant mother, her name was June Fitzgerald, and injured her 19-month-old daughter. And according to the Today.com, Fitzgerald's husband, a full-time pastor, asked for the man's diminished sentence. So he went to the trial and said, please lessen the sentence. And he also began meeting with the man for coffee and conversation. And for many years, the two of them remained very close. So that's an act of compassion. Even at a huge loss to himself, he knew that the man was working and he fell asleep, and it was an accident that happened, right? So here's one that wasn't quite so accidental. It's called The Unlikely Partner. An Iranian woman named Shamir Alajad, and I'm going to murder that name over there, right? She had told the Associated Press that retribution had been her only thought as after her teenage son was murdered. All she could think about was retribution, right? So she put it at the time, in Iran, they have a different state of way to sentence people. The family can actually sentence and commit the act of murder if the person is found guilty. So as this man is going to be hung, the mother of this teenager that lost her teenager walked up, slapped him across the face, and took the noose off his neck. So she was still hurting, but yet the compassion, she said it was a last-minute decision. She didn't even know she was going to do it because all she could think about before that was, he deserves to die because I lost my son. And here's one more. The compassionate officer, his name's Stephen McDonald. He was a young police officer. This was way back in 1986 when he was shot by a teenager in New York Central Park, an incident that left him paralyzed. He said, I forgave the shooter because I believed the only thing worse than receiving a bullet in my spine would have been to nurture revenge in my heart. So that's what McDonald wrote. While the younger man was serving his prison sentence, McDonald corresponded with him, hoping that one day the two of them could work together to demonstrate forgiveness and nonviolence. This is the ultimate of compassion. Unfortunately, the young man died just days after he was released from a motorcycle accident. So these are real in-depth compassion examples. But as our meditation said, and as our wonderful sharing went, compassion can be so small. I mean, it can be a smile, right? It can be a holding the door open for someone when they need to come in. It can be taking the walker down the steps so that the elderly person can get down or up the steps. Compassion comes in all different ways, right? And who deserves it? Pretty much, we all deserve it, right? So there are ways to cultivate compassion if you don't already have it. And Lisa Rankin, MD, she's a physician at New York Times. She's a best-selling author. She said there's some easy tips on how to do this. So we're going to run through some of her easy tips. If you don't already have compassion, ways to build it. Start by practicing self-compassion. Well, there's a good one, right? Even in our meditation, it's really so much easier. And I know with this being in recovery, it was so easy to serve and show compassion to everybody else. But coming back at myself was just like, that was a hard lesson to learn. I'm glad I've learned it. Ooh, yeah. But it wasn't one of my easier lessons because it was easier for me to help somebody else. So compassion, according to Padma Chodron, she's an amazing author. She's a monk. Compassion for others begins with kindness to ourselves. Kindness to ourselves. And that can be in little steps too. If it's something that is new to us, we can start with baby steps. It can be easy. Shut the TV off and take a bath. Set that last little piece of work aside and give yourself a few minutes to meditate. Compassion can come in so many different ways. So the second tip is to put yourself in someone else's shoes. That's a little bit harder, especially if you're angry or in a rage about someone, you feel like some kind of injustice has happened to you. And the thing that happened to me and that my whole family went through just recently, had they approached me with this request for understanding and all this 20 years ago, I would probably not have been able to show them the compassion that I showed them. And I probably wouldn't have been able to bless them and hope that their family heals. I probably would have still harbored a lot of anger because I was hurt for a long time. So this is a testament to my growth inside this program, is because now I can go, yes, I see and I understand and I can love you just the way you are, and I can hold the space for you to heal. So if we put ourselves in someone else's shoes, that kind of gives us that idea. What would it really be like? Okay? So number 3 is we move beyond our self-referencing. So it's practice shifting from our perspective, from exclusive thinking, because this is a big, wide world here. This isn't, it's not just, what did I see the other day? I saw a quote that said, people are really going to be surprised when they get the map of the universe and find out they're not standing in the center of it. It really is. We are not the center of the universe. We're a part of everything else. And so compassion is part of who we are. So practice shifting from our perspective. And a quote on this was from Jack Kornfield: "Our sorrows and wounds are healed only when we touch them with compassion." Because it's really easy to tear at our wounds, right? But if we touch it with compassion, imagine how much healing will happen. Number 4 is practice kindness without people-pleasing. Ooh, there's a qualifier. It was easy for me to people-please, I would say that. I was the ultimate, I probably could have won the Grammy Award on people-pleasing years ago, because I was, as my mother said, I was the glue that held the family together, because I was the people pleaser. I made sure everybody was right and everything. So you have to practice that kindness without the people. Be kind, but have those boundaries. And that's hard. It's a lesson that we learn. These things are simple, but they're hard. How many times have we heard that, right? It doesn't mean we're selling out the truth in order to make someone happy or make somebody feel good. It's authentic kindness, okay? Number 5, relax your judgment. Relax our judgment. I'll say that too, our judgment. Okay, it's really easy to judge somebody. It's really easy to slap a label on them and say, this is who they are, that's just who they are. What if we took that label off and said, maybe we really don't know who they are. Maybe we haven't given them a chance to become who they are to us. Relax our judgment about it. What if we could just let them keep these labels off? There's no right or wrong. We stay within our own boundaries, and we let them be within theirs. And if that keeps them in our circle of friends, it does. If it doesn't, then they'll have other friends to go to. Releasing judgment of others starts with letting go of self-judgments too. Isn't that easy? How many times in a day does someone say, including myself, that's just the way I am? That's just the way I am. Is it now? Or have I just used that as an excuse to not try to open up to not label myself? Or that's just the way they are. Well, have they been given the opportunity to make another choice? Maybe they are making the only choice that they can. We don't know. But if we slap the label on them, then we've said, we've judged them. That's who they are. Number 6, listen generously. This is a big one for me. And I learned this when I was at the Unity of Phoenix, and I was in the chaplain program, and we did this listening exercise where people listen at 25%, then they listen at 50%, then they listen at 75%, and then they listen completely. Listening is something that is an art. You have to do it, and you can't do it if you got we cannot do it if we've got our phones stuck in our faces. It's not possible. or if we're distracted by something else, or we're typing on the computer, or trying to write notes or whatever, listening generously means actually focusing and listening to the person, right? Without judgment. When you listen generously to people, they hear the truth in themselves, often for the first time. I don't know how many times I've been talking with someone that's listening to me, and by the end of the conversation, I've already answered my own thing because they listened to me and they heard who I was and what I was saying. It's amazing. Number 7, healing our own trauma. It's a big one. It's hard to do again. Simple techniques out there to do it, but healing trauma, touching ourselves with compassion, right? If we hold in unhealed trauma, it festers. Do they even use that word anymore? Festers. It grows and grows and becomes whatever it needs to become to get out. It'll find a way out. In lots of other ways, they're finding that scientifically now. People holding in, years ago, ulcers was the big thing. Everybody has an ulcer because they were so stressed. It's because we were holding all this stuff in, right? So compassion is an action word with no boundaries. Prince said that, really. I felt that. I was just like, really, Prince? An action word with no boundaries. I think it's cool. I didn't know he was quite that sophisticated, but, it was like, wow, that was cool. Number 8, practice presence. Be where you are when you're there. You're not reliving the past or rehearsing the future. Practice the presence. Try to be fully present with everyone you encounter, right? Avoid looking at your phone, multitasking, glancing at the TV, behind your lunch date. Every restaurant you go into, when you can go into a restaurant, there's 40 TVs. And they're expecting you to look up and look at the TV, What you're having a conversation at the table, but they're distracting with the TVs. Be present. See if you can really feel what the other person might be thinking beneath the words, because there's always something beneath the words. And the words may change, and the words that they say may not be the words that you understand it is the same way. Number 9 is to practice radical self-care. And this lady that wrote this book, she's the one, I think she has a book called Radical Self-Care. And I have not read it, but I read the synopsis of it. It sounded amazing. But she says, in order to truly offer compassion to others, you first have to fill yourself. Fill your own tank, right? And think about how one of my wonderful monks says that compassion is a verb, right? So there's 3 quick tips to practice it. So pause for a moment and consider whether or not you're telling yourself about the other person is a story. Is it accurate? Is it true? And what's the evidence of that belief? And can you think of any counterexamples to your belief? Is there any way to counteract that thought? What was it? My husband tells me, we used to have this saying, and we haven't said it in a while. What is it? You always default on the side of the positive. It's always think that no matter what they're doing it for the right reasons. And it changes the way you think about things if you try to think that they're doing their best. They're always trying to be positive. So if you find that you've been engaging in an all or nothing thought or generalizations, consider a more balanced thought might be instead he's a terrible person, consider saying that I don't like that what he did. I always told my children when they were growing up in their late 30s and early 40s now, it's not what you do. I'm not saying that you're a bad person. I'm saying that what you did was not right. And I can separate the two, but that you're still gonna be held accountable for what you did. So consider engaging in an international act of kindness. Random acts of kindness are amazing. You'd be surprised how many people will pay for the coffee of the person behind them in a car. I heard one time, I don't know, it went on for days at one Starbucks, where the word got out, and they always paid for the person behind them because someone had paid for theirs, so they would pay behind, and it would go on and on for days. I don't know the record, but it was amazing to hear the story. Just little things like that, get strollers bought for you. Those are amazing. So from the Dalai Lama, I found 2 wonderful quotes. It says, "It's not enough to be compassionate, you must act." And I really believe that compassion is the action verb. It really, we have to, we can feel it, and it's complete when we act on our feelings. And it has another one that says, "Love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive." So I'll leave you with this last quote. And it says, this is from Desmond Tutu, and he's a South African Angelic Archbishop. I quoted him earlier. He's also known best for he won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1984, and he's been opposing the apartheid in South Africa for way before that. He says, "The central concern is the healing of breaches, the redressing of imbalances, the restoration of broken relationships, a seeking to rehabilitate both the victim and the perpetrator, who should be given opportunity to reintegrate into the community he has injured by his offense." That's part of what has happened in my life, is I've been asked to be a part of this family again. And with my compassion and my love, I'm willing to be open to do that. And it's an amazing feeling to being on this side of it. And I'm grateful that my recovery has led me here. So let's pray. Higher power, thank you for this time together. Thank you for the words, for the quotes, and for those listening. And I pray that it touches the hearts of those that need it most, to know that there are people willing to be compassionate towards them, to love them, to not label them, and to be in their presence with them as they are, knowing that compassion is for everyone. We all deserve it. We all are empowered by it, by giving it and receiving. We say thank you. Amen.
Let us center ourselves right now in this loving place. Let us focus on the love around us, within us, whirling like a tornado from within, just spreading the love and compassion outward. Take a breath. Focus on your breathing. Calmly allow yourself to take care of you. Compassion for all includes compassion for ourselves. Connect with this joy and this calmness. Let the music envelop you. Feel the love. Feel your infinite connection with all around you. Breathe in the love-filled air. Your inner whispers ground you. Listen to this compassionate voice. Breathe in calmness. Remember, caring for others also requires caring for yourself. Focus on the love, the joy, the excitement that you have, knowing that you are caring and compassionate for yourself and for others. A compassionate gesture doesn't have to be a large, big, overwhelming gesture. Compassionate gesture can be helping somebody take a box of detergent off the shelf in a grocery store that they can't reach. That's seeing that others need help and you're there to help. If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. So embrace yourself first. Trust me, you deserve it. Remember, you have been criticizing yourself for years, and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. Breathe in the love. Allow it to embrace you. Feel your body calm and renewed. Feel your spirit connected and renewed. Feel yourself embracing compassion for others. Also embracing compassion for yourself. Take in another exhilarating breath. Feel the love. Feel the joy. Be happy. Open your eyes and smile. Be thankful for everything that you see, everything that you know that's all around you. This is love. This is who you are. And because of this, the world is such a better place because you are in it. Be blessed. Be joyful. Be happy. You are love. Namaste.
Thank you for joining us, and let's stay connected and grow in spirit. We are on Facebook. Search for Unity Church of El Cajon and follow us and like our posts. You can reach us on YouTube at Unity Church of El Cajon. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our videos, and leave comments which can help us improve. We are on the web at unityofelcajon.org. Email or call our church office to receive our weekly newsletters, which lists all of our activities and opportunities to learn and grow together.